Hello, everybody. Okay, so this episode is going to be about the dangers of trend chasing in family photography, which really upticks when there's any sort of financial insecurity or people are not meeting their income goals. So before we talk about that, I want to clarify something that I'm doing. So I'm being really annoying about this, but for the past 2 years, I've been trying to figure out the best way to help family photographers with marketing. You've seen that and heard about it if you follow me on Instagram or you listen to this podcast. And so the latest idea I had was to do monthly small group, which I was very excited about until I realized in a marketing way what that meant to try to market that to fill it every single month. And I got super overwhelmed with the thought of that, especially because this week I have literally 5 sessions. And so busy season is picking up for me and I have to be careful that I don't spread myself too thin. So I was trying to be very introspective and think about how I like to teach marketing and what makes sense for people. And I love one-on-one because I get to really help people for a longer amount of time, but sustainably, I can't do 9 one-hour Zoom calls every week because then it becomes pretty much my full-time job. So what I've decided to go back to is kind of back to my roots, where I'm going to start a membership. It's going to open on April 21st and it's only going to be $35 a month. I want it to be really affordable, especially as we're heading into a time of a little bit of uncertainty. And I'm really excited about it. So it's going to include the Family Photographer Marketing Plan course. So everyone who comes in will have that baseline foundation of what I think are the basic 4 most important elements of marketing. And then we're going to do every single Monday, we're going to do a planning session so we can plan out the week within the community. And then there's also going to be focus groups that I'm going to create depending on what people need and want. The first 2 that I'm creating are about how to build out a compelling homepage and how to structure a blog post. So they're going to be little topics like that people can tune into and learn from as they go. So I'm very excited about it. I don't know if anyone here watches New Girl, but when Nick, who's one of the characters, is trying to write his book, he hires someone off of Craigslist to come and punch him in the face if he doesn't write his 20 pages. And so I am going to hire someone to punch me in my face if I change my mind on this between now and a year from now. So I'm giving myself a year to build this community and I hope that you'll join. I think it'll be really good. And I have a big capacity for talking about marketing. I love to talk about it all the time. And I want to see people transform and feel supported. And the way that a lot of my one-on-one students have this fear of the relationship and the check-ins ending and then their marketing kind of tumbling off, I feel like this is a good way for people to stay consistent. Okay, so that out of the way, we're on to the topic. I have noticed as a general observer and participant in family photography that when people are not booking, one of the things that they can do is try to 180 into a new trend. And generally this is because there's a photographer that they've seen that they perceive as more successful. And I'm always trying to, gently as I can, pull back the curtain because I have so many conversations with people and I become a sounding board for sort of marketing troubles for everyone from the person with 50 followers who started 6 months ago to the 40,000 follower person. And I'm only using following as a ranking, not because I believe it translates into success or skill, just because I feel like we, whether or not we are conscious of it or not, decide that people who have a large following and appear to be booked out are the ones that we place on the pedestal. And so when we don't see success within our own businesses, which is often tied to our own silence because the marketing that we've been doing isn't working, there's changes in the economy, we need to pivot. Instead of pivoting in a way that we're gaining new eyes on what we've already been building for the past even 5 years, we decide that instead the answer is to pivot to do what these pedestal photographers are doing. So that can be trending editing styles, session types, marketing like reels or trying to become like influencer, like behind the scenes type people, suddenly shifting in brand tone or mimicking overall style to match someone else. So know that it is a natural temptation when things are slow to get stuck in this comparison loop and think that the answer is to do a 180. So the issue with that is that there's all these elements within marketing, and so much of them have to do with time. And when you introduce a new offering, the runway for that offer or session type or whatever it is you're trying to book to gain traction is so much longer than we even think about. I mean, if you think about your own session types and how long it really took for you to feel traction as the artist and for your clients to feel traction in terms of you being able to produce a consistent output, that is significant. So the Social Media Marketing World Conference happened recently, and a lot of those things with social media marketing, I keep an eye on as someone who's interested and teaches marketing myself, but a lot of those things, it's hard to make them apply because we are trying to walk this delicate tightrope of being creative business owners and having a service, and then we don't have a product. So much of these social media trends or topics or teachings are about how to be an influencer or sell a product. But anyway, the takeaway that I heard someone mention was that it's now up to like 77 touch points that someone needs to see something before they'll buy it. If you think about that number, it's like completely overwhelming, or I guess I should say it could feel completely overwhelming. And whether or not that's true or not, I have no idea. If I think about the last thing that I bought, I definitely saw it a bunch of times before I actually bought it, or I had the idea reoccurring in my own brain, whether I was reminded of it from that account, seeing an ad or seeing it, or it was just top of mind for me, and it was a runway of time before I actually bought it. It's the same way with our clients. So when you think about whatever it is, let's say you have 3 offerings, outdoor family photography, studio family photography, and newborn family photography, each of those has their own runway. And instead of looking at our data and trying to figure out where we lost people, where potential clients are falling through the cracks, whether or not we're showing up or our marketing channels are even effective, we think like, oh no, clearly the answer is let's get everyone on a rooftop to ride skateboards. I'm just using that as an example because that's the type of session that I often see that photographers really love. And then I feel like a lot of those people who are feeling this insecurity about their own path can think like, oh, that's the answer. I just have to pivot X, Y, and Z to match what this person is doing, and then success will fall in my lap. Not understanding that for a lot of these bigger name photographers, the majority of their sessions are with model families that are handpicked, and the idea for the session is from the photographer's brain, not the client brain, which means that the client is not going to be natively searching for that. So it's going to be really hard to show up for SEO, and the education to train your client to fall in love with this type of session as opposed to why they're already looking at your brand in the first place can be an overwhelming marketing task that is actually much harder than just trying new ways to market the sessions where you've already built trust. So sometimes I get kind of sad that I don't get to have the role in the industry of being the person who can be like, all you have to do is be creative. Like, you just have to follow your creative flow and everything will fall into place. And that's very romantic. And I understand why that messaging sells and why photographers are drawn to it. But as someone who has to make money from this business or get another job, it's not as easy as just following every creative trail that you think of. It's towing the line of building a consistent, trustworthy brand while also being creative, and then hoping all of that comes together to actually allow you to turn a profit in your business, which I know is actually really rare and hard to do. But I want as many women who feel like they could reach that goal to reach that goal. And creative projects are really important, and staying passionate about your creativity is super, like that can be a high priority for a lot of photographers, but it doesn't have to be what your business is. Your business does not have to be built atop your creative whims. And just because it appears that a photographer is allowing every creative whim to be fulfilled, maybe that their whole marketing plan is actually geared towards, I see this all the time, actually geared towards educating family photographers, and clients natively seeking out these types of sessions is quite rare. And instead it's the photographer putting out a model call and those client/models fulfilling the photographer's creative vision, and not much money is exchanged. Is that what is happening 100% of the time? No, but I definitely feel like that is something that is happening. So the issue with following trends are a couple. So the first is that it dilutes your brand identity that you've already worked really hard to build up. So whether or not you think you do or not, you already have a brand identity. And just because you happen to be marketing through the freaking craziest political atmosphere that we've had in a long time, plus a looming recession, plus if I have to hear the word tariff one more time, I'm going to throw my dog in the woods. We are operating in this crazy environment, and even despite all of that, you still have a brand identity. And when you switch to chase a trend, you confuse those potential clients, and the foundation atop which they are understanding and building trust with your brand starts to break apart. You also become very disconnected from your own work because you no longer trust yourself, because you're trying to trend chase and you're thinking, this is what I have to do. I have to follow this path. The path is very unclear because, like I said, for the majority of these pedestal photographers who everyone is following, the way that they are building out their brands is backwards. They're finding models, model call families or model families, and executing a vision, and it's not going the other way that it normally happens for the vast majority of family photographers, which is we're tapping into what clients are looking for and providing that service for them while also fulfilling our own creative endeavors at the same time. So you don't have to ignore trends completely. Like, I like to take little pieces of trends here and there, especially over time. I'll slightly tweak my editing or try things if they seem fun. I'll definitely do that, but it can be filtered through my voice. It doesn't mean that I have to become someone else. You can ask, does the trend support my client experience? Does it support my values? And most importantly, does it support my long-term goals? Pivoting to chase a trend to try to dig yourself out of a visibility hole that's literally just caused because of the climate that we're in right now might not serve your long-term goals, because if you take a step back and realize what it's going to take to turn the ship that is your business in an entirely new direction, it's going to be a lot of work. So instead, what you want is rooted long-term marketing strategies. And these are going to be quite boring. I was just on a podcast as a guest, and one of the things I talked about, and I know I've talked about on this podcast as well, is the fact that successful businesses can feel quite boring. And that's why it's always a good idea, if you are a creative driven person, like you're driven by your creativity, to have projects on the side that aren't tied to your income goals, because then you can separate the two. Like, obviously, if I have a family who shows up and they've styled in a way that I like creatively to shoot, and we are at a location that's really beautiful at golden hour, that is like, and their connection with each other is really strong. Those are all elements that I'm fighting for in my brand and my messaging and my booking process every time. I'm not going to hit that every time though. And so if I'm saying like, oh, this session didn't hit the 4 things that I love as an artist, then it doesn't matter. That's not how my brain sees it. My brain sees it as, when I get those sessions, it's so lucky that it also ticks my creativity box and I'm making money. And then these other sessions may not tick my creativity box as well, but I'm still making money. And part of my overall goal as a family photographer is to make money. So that's kind of how I think about it. You want to market with consistency. You want to give yourself runway. If you're constantly diverting off the runway and running into the woods and running back out with some new prop or trend or thing you want to try, then you're constantly reinventing yourself, which is extremely exhausting. So instead, you want to focus on your client experience. how clients come through your artistic process, local connections in your town, testimonials, word of mouth, data of what has worked for you before, repurposing, trying again. Those are all the things that a strong foundational marketing plan are made out of, not being the most shared on Instagram. Is it cool when a session goes kind of wild and you get a lot of attention? Sure. But if you're trying to pivot your entire business because you've decided that the only path to success is to look like someone else, the only thing that's going to happen is in 6 to 8 months, you're going to be pivoting again. And so you're going to be in a constant state of pivot instead of knee deep in the foundation of your brand. So that is where we want you to be. The answer to your problem may be for you to stop looking out at what everyone else is doing and to turn around and face your own town as the expert of your space and start communicating that value to those people who are a much smaller, much less influential in terms of the overall photography industry, but more key to your success. So I think a lot of photographers, if they were able to kind of just turn their sights back to what actually matters, you'll be less likely to be pulled into this trend chasing. So first, I want you to know that it's really normal and I see it happening all the time. Two, there is no structure that you can tap into that will give you the same success as someone who's been in business for 10 years, has 40,000 followers, and has literally like an email list of model call families that they work off of to see their visions, knowing that those unique visions bring more photographer eyes to their brand because what they're actually selling is education for photographers. And I know a lot of you guys know that in the front of your mind, but I need you to know it in your belly. Like, know it. And not just like, you actually have to have discernment about it and realize the truth of that. And it's been a very successful model for a lot of photographer educators, and I would never disparage it. Do I sometimes wish there was a little more transparency and the curtain was pulled back a little bit about the actual income that they make from their work? Yes, but we don't live in a perfect world, so it's fine. Okay, so just know that if there's a trend that you felt tempted by, ask yourself what is tempting you and first make it a personal project. And if you absolutely love it, figure out if there's a way to shape shift it into your brand slowly, giving yourself a 6 to 8 month runway for introducing that type of session instead of a 2 to 3 week panic pivot. Okay, I hope this episode was helpful. And again, April 21st, the Family Photographer Marketing membership will open. I will be in there. I will be helping you. I will be helping you stay consistent. We will come up with marketing ideas. You can post your marketing in there and get critique or feedback from other people in the group. And if you hear me talk about anything else, then send your resume to my Instagram and I might pick one of you that can be the Don't Change Your Mind Again Fiona face puncher. All right, have a good day.